Well, good morning, class. I just want to recap Forum 3. I'll start off with the situation with the little boy getting hit with the fly ball in right field, lost it in the sun. And I just want to briefly talk about that. That happens all the time in baseball, where kids have a hard time fielding a ball in the sun. And in fact, we used to work that all the time. I coached baseball for 42 years at Donegal High School, and that was one of our biggest drills because, the sun is always in right field. Most baseball fields are built that way, where the sun is in right field. And even, if you go somewhere else and it's different, the sun's going to be in whatever field. So you got to learn how to protect yourself and see a ball that's in the sun. Now, you can practice that. And I do think that that could have been taught to even the younger kids, because I've taught it to Little League kids, before. You can teach them how to shade their eyes with their glove hand, with their off hand. And then you can also, suggest wearing sunglasses if it's that bad. It's a good idea to have them. We've lost games because kids have lost the ball in the sun. So it's very important for winning. But to protect yourself, I think that could have been done. Was it the coach's fault? No, I don't think it was. And I do think that, and one of you mentioned it, I don't know, Chris, I think you may have, or may have been Noel, I'm not sure, can't remember, but about maybe instructing the coaches on how to teach those kind of things. And, the league could offer a clinic in various aspects of the game to protect kids that way. So I think that is a way to manage or reduce a risk. A lot of you mentioned a waiver. Yeah, waiver is going to help, when it comes to the legal aspects. But teaching, we have a duty to instruct and a duty to warn of inherent risks. And so if we have instructed and warned them what can happen, and parents as well, then in a court, it's going to look a lot better. Waiver will, add to that as well. So not just a waiver, but I would hit on the instruction part. And that's for every level. I think it's important. And again, like I said, you're never going to eliminate risk. It's not called risk elimination. It's called risk management. So you're just going to be managing that risk. So I do think, Noel and Kyle, I think you mentioned it, about the clinic and the basics. So Isaac, you mentioned sunglasses. It's great. It doesn't matter what age. They can wear them. I got a 5-year-old grandson that wears sunglasses, and he thinks it's cool. And so anyway, I think you can do that. Someone mentioned also maybe having a trainer there, but most youth sports, they can't afford to have a trainer there. I do think it's important for coaches to have first aid and CPR, no matter what level they're coaching. I think it's critical. And so I just wanted to touch on that. The next thing is supervision. That is so critical. In high school, college, it doesn't matter, Little League, you have to supervise. And, like your book, talks about, there's different types of supervision. There's that general supervision, then there's specific, and then there's transitional. I found that I was probably using them all throughout the day, through at a coaching practice, at a game, whatever. You go back and forth. The more risky the skill, the more dangerous the skill or activity, the more specific the supervision has to be. I don't know how many times we had to caution coaches on supervising the locker room, because they just don't want to do that. And it's so critical because things can happen in there when they're by themselves. When kids are by themselves, you can have hazing going on, you can have fights, all kinds of horseplay, and things can happen, and you will be liable for that. And I don't know how many times we had to call coaches in the office to, impress on them how important it is for them to protect themselves in supervising, and to protect the athletes, to protect the kids. So it's important. Also, having an emergency plan, I think that is critical. I think a lot of schools overlook that. They don't think it's important. Having an emergency plan for weekends and holidays is more so, because there's less people around. Sometimes you don't have a nurse on campus or a trainer. Our trainer never worked on weekends and holidays, so we had to plan for that. Who's going to open a gate if there's an emergency? We got to get an emergency vehicle in. What phone numbers to call? I know 911, but you need to also let the athletic director know. You need to call the parents possibly, and those emergency forms for those athletes. So important. I can't impress upon you enough how important it is to clear your athletes and keep those emergency cards with you at all times, practice or games, doesn't matter. That is so critical. So if you're a coach, make sure you have those. Very important. And so I just wanted to touch on that. And supervision is key. The last thing is transportation. And there's so much to this, but I'm going to make it brief because I've been talking too long as it is. But Cheyenne, you suggested finding out what the policy is in the district you're in. That is critical. Because every district, I call it Russian roulette. There are so many districts out there that are not following the law. It's unbelievable. When I talk to other athletic directors or coaches or different people I know and what other districts are doing and not doing, it's just an accident waiting to happen. And when it does, that's when everybody's going to react instead of being proactive on this. It's so important. If your district doesn't offer transportation, they're putting themselves out there. Because yes, you can have waivers and you can have parents drive, and students should never drive. But and I'm talking high school wise, but it happens. Parents are driving other kids. Parents are driving their own kids. Kids are driving their friends, and all that is just a liability just waiting to happen. So. Our district had a policy where, first of all, they weren't going to have transportation. We told them, okay, well, think about this for a second. If you don't offer transportation, that neighboring district will. And you're going to get transfers. And in our district, we had 4,000 athletes in the 4 comprehensive high schools, 1,000 apiece. So if just say 500 of those kids left, okay, to the neighboring school district, they're going to lose $5,000 per student. Add that up, okay, and then add the cost of, losing teachers, because that's what's going to happen. They will go because parents can't drive their kids at 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So when we figured that out, we just gave them 500. That was figuring low for 4,000 kids. They said, "Wow, transportation in this district only costs $300,000 for the 4 comprehensive high schools." It's to our benefit to offer it. It's part of doing business. It's the cost of doing business. We don't want to lose kids. And especially in this climate, schools are competing with one another, private and public. Public schools are competing with each other. So it's going to get worse. So once they understand that this is a necessary thing to have transportation, they're going to protect themselves and they're going to be much better off. That's something you can bring up to your school board if they ever say, we're going to cut it, we're going to charge. You can't charge. It's against the law to charge for transportation for athletics. You can charge home to school, but you can't charge for athletics. So, that is a critical thing. But what I would say is find out what your policy is in your district. If your district says, okay, no transportation on weekends or holidays, which ours did, we said, okay, well, we need a waiver. And the waiver is for driving their own student. That's one waiver. Another waiver would be for transporting other children, and that they would have to show proof of a DMV report, insurance, and their license. And we'd have to have a copy of it on file at risk management, and I would keep a copy as an athletic director in the office. If they didn't have that, and we had an away game on a weekend, they couldn't go. So it worked well. It was a pain for me and my secretary to make sure we had all these on file, but we did. And that's to protect ourselves, because I don't want to be caught in a lawsuit because I didn't have these forms. So it's important to find out. And another thing, real quickly, off-season programs, not the ones like, for example, fall, winter, spring. Let's say fall's football, winter's basketball, and others. And in spring, you got baseball, track, and all that. In between that, CIF did away with the association rules, and that means coaches can coach year-round now. So everything is going on, and coaches are driving their own kids. Kids are driving themselves out of season, but during the school year, that is critical that you have waivers and you have all the proper forms, or don't let them go if you're an athletic director. And if you're a coach, find out what your district wants you to do. Don't put yourself out there, because if there's an accident and you're involved, they're not going to back you. You're going to be out there. And so please cover yourselves, know your policy. Don't take it upon yourself to do it. Now, if you're at the college level, it's a little bit different. Again, find out your policy and go by that. Anyway, I just wanted to quickly go over that. I know I ran way over on my video. You guys are doing a great job. I'm really proud of you. Reading your posts, I tell you what, you guys, you encourage me that there are a lot of good people out there. So keep it up. And if you need anything, email me, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.